we'll give everybody a few minutes to join in. In the meantime, let's hear from those who have not spoken up. And can we have everybody's camera on? We have the luxury of another 40 minutes beautifully with us, so we can further discuss and look through the strategies. And, it's the beautiful time of the year. As, we move to the next year, we could probably adopt some of the strategies in our classroom. So anybody who would like to share how they are feeling, just, I know most of us use them, but it's good to revisit some strategies. And I kind of culled out the ones which I felt could be most important and relevant. So yes, Neha.
Yeah, so I've also used to do now a strategy. So what I do is I teach art and design. So I laid out certain artists on the table, their artworks, the prints of their artworks, and then without talking, I told them, now you're going to figure out what exactly we are doing today. So we had all the impressionists, and then they figured out, I think we are learning a similar style. I think we're learning the style that Van Gogh also is a part of. So very, very interesting that they were slowly able to figure out without conversation that what we're going to do. So it was more like a provocation to what we're learning. So it really works well.
I totally agree. And especially subjects like, PHE, art, design, these are the subject where classroom management, plays a key role, because maybe they are coming from their classes to the theater room, to the art room. They need time to set up. But once these strategies are in place and they understand, it kind of, helps maximize the time for the students, and that culture is established. So they play a very,
True.
very key role. Uh,
Yeah, true. They're
Jen,
so involved. Like when you use these strategies, you see that students are actively involved in actually learning, right?
right, absolutely. Jayanti, would you like to share something, since I see your camera on? So, anything you would like to share?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Strategies, we, think of a strategy, but when you really get to the classroom, you have to revise and come up with something new, maybe to suit maybe the mood of the learners at that point of time. But yes, I one of the very simple strategies when I was reading Teach Like a Champion, I came across this book quite a few years back. Cold call is something, but very mindfully, making the cold call is something that very commonly I use in my class. I mean, just one of the very small things that
I
I do.
agree with I agree with you. And if you realize, Jayanti, asking you for the question was my cold call, very gently, looking at the fact that the camera was on. So,
Sorry,
yes,
what is this cold call? What is this cold call? I'm
So
curious.
cold call is like, if probably, I'll just say that, Tasneem, you are present with us. Would you like to share how you are? So, could you please switch on your
Yeah, of
camera and
course,
talk?
I'm there with you,
All
but unfortunately, I won't be able to put my camera on because I am traveling, and at the same time, I am a part of this session.
Sure. But would you like to share anything? So this was like a cold call, and I'm so glad that Tasneem
Fantastic.
immediately, worked with me. So Tasneem, anything that you would like to share with us? Yeah.
Pertaining to the cold call,
No, for
I don't think it
anything.
was a
Cold
cold
call is
call.
just no, cold call is just a strategy, but any of the strategies that you resonate with.
I very much resonate with the reflection and resonate. I most of the time when I teach, I'm a language teacher. So most of the time when I'm teaching, I do use a lot of reflection and resonate practices, and of course, even the no opt out policy that really helps in the class. Uh, as you said, that it keeps the children engaged in the class, and they know that there has to be an answer to this teacher.
Right. That's very important, especially for middle schoolers. Middle schoolers can really. A PYP student is very eager to answer, as we all know. When it comes to DP, or high school, what happens is they are, if they are genuinely invested, they will ask. But a middle schooler, loves to challenge you, and sometimes they may know, they will not, or it's cool not to answer. There could be a group of students who feel it's cool not to answer. So those things kind of take precedence. Yes, Priya, let's hear from you.
Yeah, so Richa, I think do now. Sometimes what happens, how much ever we plan a lesson and we've got all our presentations ready and all, it can always happen during a class that we come up with, like, say, a sudden question in our mind, which we think like, what if? So we put up that it's a very low prep strategy. Do now. So it could be just like, say, maybe one question which it's not there in your lesson plan, but you want to put it up on the board, and it keeps children alert. It keeps them on their toes.
Right.
And what happens then is that they know, and if you get the culture of these do now, like regularly, children are used to it, and they're like, okay, Miss Priya might probably there might be a do now question coming up, so we better be attentive and pay attention, because there might be a do now coming up. And if you couple it with a warm call instead of a cold call, like just say, okay, today for this question, for the next do now, I might be asking Richa and say maybe Neha. So then that's like a warm call. You're mentally preparing them. That also works really well. Like, so children are not like, they don't feel cornered in a way also. So that also really helps. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm
I
sorry
think
about my
you
cat.
are. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a very good strategy what you shared. And do now, and like I said, if over the period of time you have prepared your students and they understand when the teacher says do now, then it really works, and it could be a very strong spontaneous working. Like cold call helps, warm call again establishes, a very nurturing culture in the classroom. So again, we'll have to balance with our warm and strict approach as to what really works. Yes, eventually we want a very highly engaged classrooms, and we want it that, we don't need to do a cold call and they all, kind of participate. But sometimes we have to scaffold and take our classrooms to those steps. But once the students are very clear with these strategies, it becomes very, very automated with them, and it really works. So I'm glad to hear, so many of you have been using, and these strategies are helpful. uh, Getting back to the to our PPT, so we were on the workbook. We have looked through a positive classroom culture. We have looked through positive framing, strong voice, warm, strict, and ratio. Like I said, don't forget, I would say, don't forget, Mamta, do you mind muting? I think, there's some parallel conversation happening. Just reminding you all that ratio works very, very well. Ratio is helpful because it reminds you that how your interactions have been. So do keep ratio in mind to have a positive classroom culture. Engaging students, no opt out as an initial strategy is really good depending on your cohort. Right is right, it helps you set up high expectations and also ensures that the students start believing in accuracy, and high expectation works very well in mathematics. Works many times, not just mathematics, I would say music, PHE classrooms, physical and health education, where, okay, everybody has to do the warm up. Everybody needs to take 2 rounds of the field or whatever your unit is going on and stretch it again, enhances critical thinking, enhances engagement, and challenges your students. So, is again a beautiful strategy. 100% is something that, yes, all of us as teachers should keep in mind so that we are taking everybody along. Do now and I think exit tickets is something that we have been using beautifully. Now let's look at differentiation. So as IB teachers, and we have it in our unit planners, we believe in differentiations. We look at differentiation from a lot of point of view. We have looked through in assessment, we have looked through into the process, but here I'm going to give you another twist to differentiation as a thought process to look across. We are going to look at differentiation where you are trying to involve all the learners in the classroom, and then you are back end analyzing the data and looking at how differentiation is going to help and work for your classroom. So it's not just a technique, it's probably a strategy in your classroom. I'll now pause and move to the workbook because that's going to help us. So let's requesting everybody to be on the workbook. I hope you all have received the workbook and you have it with you. So Pepper. I'm not sure how many of you have heard about that strategy, but in the inherent of Pepper as a strategy, what it believes it that regardless of the readiness or the ability, we strive to actively engage all the students in our lesson. So remember, while differentiation means that we understand our cohort, we know that they have different abilities, but while we look at Pepper as a strategy, we believe that everybody is ready and everybody should be engaged. And some of the ways in which Pepper as the strategy can be applied for differentiated instruction is like random selection. So you call and you ask like how Priya just shared at the beginning of the class. You can tell them that okay, today you are the three people who will be answering this part or will be the curator of the discussion, something like that. And you keep on involving different students at different times. So here, while you understand that the students have different abilities, but you are looking at like how it is Pepper, you are looking at it all around, then your questions could vary. So, depending while somebody has answered and there's a specific learning, the follow up question or the type you give is depending on their ability to answer and their thinking. So, some might need scaffolding, some might need challenging. So, what is the need of your learners? You take it from there, but you are involving all of them. Yes, Jayanti.
Some of us have written in the chat that we have not received the workbook. So can it be shared?
Yeah, I'll do it right away. I'll do it right away.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean I had reshared, but for people who would have joined late, okay, so I will have to give me just a moment. I'll have to stop sharing and I'll have to close the workbook so that I can reshare. Give me just a moment. So let's start, while I'm doing that, let's hear from people how you are using differentiated instructions, or has anybody thought about Pepper in their working? Yes, Priya.
So, I'd attended a session on differentiated instructions a couple of months back, and there was
Mm-hmm.
a strategy that was taught to us, which was called as a think dots activity. And the
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
think dots activity is basically you have the six faces of a dice, like what we use for snakes and ladders and Ludo, the
right.
dice, right?
Yeah, the dice. Yeah.
So what we do is it could be done in different ways. Like I tried it out with grade six and I tried it out with grade 10 and I used it differently then. So with
Mm-hmm.
grade six, what I did was different levels of Bloom's taxonomy. Like
Mm-hmm.
you go from simple to most more complex, like the final one in Bloom's taxonomy being create, right? So we give based on those different levels of Bloom's taxonomy, like identify or create or compare. I created questions based on that. So it starts with a basic level question, which is like a factual or a knowledge and understanding. And then I go to the second phase of the dice, which is the number two, make it a little more complex and ask them a question. So if you solve question one, then you can go to question two. Then if you're able to solve question two, then go to question three, like not skipping. So it's
Right.
kind of like a no opt out in some way as well. And for
Yeah.
my grade 10, what I did, I actually gave them a dice to roll. They rolled the dice and whatever number they got on the dice, they were supposed to, because um, I mean, they were older kids, so I thought maybe they might be able to handle the complexity of the questions a little easier as compared to. So that is something I used for differentiated instruction. And a misconception I had for differentiated instruction was that it needs to be done in all lessons, whereas that's not the case. Choose something that you want to be differentiated in your lesson and
Best
only do that.
practices. That is also a teacher support thing. That is also building up on
I think
the
there was
school.
some.
Teachers are always
Meena, do you
frustrated
want to
and
share?
want to go for IB workshop.
No.
IB workshop. A school is not.
No.
That's not.
All right. Yeah, Priya, go ahead. I think there was some
Okay. So yeah, that's it actually. I use think dots activity for differentiation.
for
Yeah.
differentiation. From the conversation you just pulled out, one thing that came to me and which is very important for all of us to understand is, like what you said, differentiation is not something that should happen all the time. Because also what happens is when we are doing differentiation, or when we are differentiating the learners in our mind, it is we are also compartmentalizing them and kind of limiting to their reach, because we think, oh, they can only do this much. So like you said, it has to be done at some points and not at some points. And here exactly what Pepper as a strategy believes is that while we are doing differentiated instructions, we could give them different level of questions, we can scaffold them, we can make flexible groups, but we are eventually including everybody. And we are making sure that while differentiation is happening, there is inclusion for everybody that's happening. And strategies could be any, like, pick up a chit, using a dice, the raft, or anything. So, differentiation conceptually has a broader meaning than just, kind of giving differentiated worksheet to the students, or just kind of putting them into the brackets. And that is where Pepper really, really helps us out. So, something that we can do is look at how you could have, uh, Pepper as a part of your unit plans and put it as a strategy where you have something where everybody is included, and then you bifurcate and give them different approaches and work it out. Look into that. The next important differentiating strategy that, again, people don't think of it as differentiation, is checking for understanding. Checking of understanding is that inherently, as teachers, we all do. We always gauge and we adapt our learning level as per the understanding of the class. This is very important because we might have planned something, there, but depending on the cohort, things and situations might change. So it's extremely important to have that kind of dynamism and flexibility, because eventually we want all our learners to succeed and understand a concept. That is where checking of understanding comes. It could be a very, very quick, a small frequent assessment. Could be like, okay, on the post-it, write down what did you understand, reflect on the process, some kind of questions. And it could also mean that you have a very, very specific tailored feedback, which is specific for the student, and it is also very timely. A feedback, I always emphasize, needs to be timely. It needs to be given to the students. So while you are checking for understanding and you realize that maybe these are the points the students have missed, it has to be an immediate feedback, whether it is through correction, whether it's verbal, whether it is through an anecdotal record. Make sure that it is a timely feedback. And then you have the flexibility of pacing things and putting students into different groups, or making sure that there is a differentiation where some are challenged, some are, put into taking things forward. Your checking for understanding again gives you excellent data as to how the class has done and what kind of an assessment should be given to them, and what should be the tailoring of your lessons further. So make sure that you use checking for understanding during and in between the units, as it helps you a lot. And the follow up to checking for understanding is add-bats. And add-bats is a strategy or a technique that encourages teachers to provide multiple opportunities to practice something. So while we are making our lesson plans and we have checked and understanding and we see, okay, this is something that the students don't understand, make sure that you give them the same thing in different formats. So it could be a quiz on Quizlet, there could be a video to watch, there could be a comprehension to write. So your topic remains the same. And this is very helpful in heavy topics or important topics. But there are multiple learning engagements which are actually leading to similar things. At-bats I've also seen being very, very useful in performing arts or in physical and health education. Because what happens is it is a matter of practice in these subjects where a students can actually hone the skill. So once something has been taught or an instruction given, it's a matter of repeated practice. So ADBAT in the crux of it actually signifies and talks about repetition, it talks about practice, it works really well in mathematics. It is differentiated because when you are doing that, maybe you are giving a different set of worksheets to different students or different questions, or there is a group that is teaching another group, but the same concept or the same techniques is given to the students again and again, multiple times in the form of revision and
आईआईटी
practice.
बॉम्बे से एमएससी कुछ
So
किया है
that is very, very important. And it's an adaptation to the assessments, and it is a process of continuous improvement. And we all know revision really, really helps and works. So see that ADBATS is again a technique that we apply in our classrooms and work through that. So this kind of brings us to the end of the techniques that I wanted to discuss. The book Teach Like a Champion is a humongous book and has some it's a plethora of strategies. These were some of the strategies I curated, which would be really helpful as we begin the new year and look, and especially focused for the middle year students. Another strategy that I really use and I would like to share is tight transitions. So if you are an MYP coordinator, a grade level coordinator, or a section head, you know that it's very important that students move from one class to the other on time, and they have a very good and strong tight transition routine. So work with your team, work with your teachers to establish a routine that they follow across the classes. So it's not teacher specific, it's mostly like an MYP cohort specific or a grade level specific, so that time is efficiently managed and the transitions between our classes are well managed. The teacher who leaves the class is very mindful of the time. The teacher who comes is mindful, and if students are moving from one place to the other, they know that this is the only stipulated time in which they set up their rooms and work. So tight transition again is extremely important in effective school management, I would say. And I see a lot of teachers talk about that. And this is something that can be dealt at a coordinator level or at a section head level mostly. So work with your team as you begin the academic year and set a process for tight transition, and that really, really helps. Uh, so with this, I would say that if you have the time, do read the book Teach Like a Champion and adopt the strategies. I curated these few strategies for you so that you have a hold on some of the best techniques and strategies to have a positive environment, highly engaged students, a good learning, and you yourself feel that your classroom is more student centric. While you are the mature adult and you handhold their thinking, but it is an extremely student centric classroom, just exactly how IB wants us to work on. So, with this, I would conclude, and we can work on the questions. I have a feedback on Jamboard, which I'm also going to be sharing in the chat box for all of you to kind of work and share your feedback with me. I've added my email ID to the workbook, and I would be happy to help and support anybody if you would want uh, to help me or help anybody, if you need any help from me, I would be happy to do that. So the Jamboard is in the text box for all of you to work on. Let's reflect now and see that how these strategies can be adopted. And not just this, I would also like to hear what are some of the common challenges that we all face in these areas so that we are able to work on the challenges and kind of work towards making ourselves feel like, do we really feel like a champion? You know, do you feel like a champion when you take the classroom? And what are some of the things that you can really do to, feel more empowered as the teacher in the classroom? So over to all of you.
Richa, could you share an example of where you've used at bats in your class? Like what was the
Right. So,
scenario?
yeah. So, like, I will probably let you know that, for the longest period of time, I've been an individual and societies teacher. So, in individual and societies, you have something called the OPVL. OPVL is a technique which we start teaching the students. It is analyzing resources from probably grade six. We start with OP. They look at origin purpose till grade 10. This is again very important for your personal project because you analyze from
Okay.
where you have picked up the data and MLA citation and things. These are things which really take time. I would say academic honesty, if you think, takes a little bit of time for students to understand. So then,
Okay.
while I'm planning a learning engagement in my unit, I make sure that I have, let's say, I teach them analyzing resources through a case study. I teach them analyzing resources through each other's work. I make sure that, we do a newspaper reading in which they analyze the resources. And probably, there's a video in which they analyze the resources. So while I'm teaching them the concept of OPVL, I have curated different learning engagements. One was a video or a post podcast. So you hear that, you analyze and write
Yes.
about it. It could be check your peers' essay and do it. It could be let's pick up a newspaper article and do it. It could be a case study from the book. So while they are doing the same things, they are doing it in a different way. And probably to
Correct.
add on to that, I would have done an OPVL or somebody else's and you review and mark it. So while I'm teaching them that one concept, I have used different ways to teach them and
Correct.
make them revise that.
So you have differentiated the process.
Yes, yes, I have used, rather than saying differentiated the process, I would say I have used different learning engagements for them to revise and practice. And, it is differentiated at the level that some learners are more audiovisual. So
Learning
maybe a
styles.
podcast, yeah, the style. Some learners
Correct.
would, feel empowered if they review somebody's work. So then the differentiation is
Correct.
happening at that process level.
Yeah, got it. I
Yes,
think a
Jay.
good idea at the start of the year is try to understand what kind of learner your students are. Like, I mean, they learn best by which way? I mean, there must be multiple styles, but then, like, are they more uh, um, comfortable? Are they more visual or kinesthetic learners or something, right? I mean, is
Yes,
that
yes. It is, I
okay?
would say it's a good idea to understand your learner because, it is always helpful. But I would also
Correct,
say, like I remember Pepper, do not compartmentalize so much that you
correct,
block your mindset. So that we all as teachers, because and also here I would say, being in the industry for so long, when a group of students move from one teacher to the other, it's extremely
correct.
natural. Remember, we are humans. Oh, those, oh, she will not learn. So make sure we don't carry any bias. So while we are doing differentiation, understanding our cohort, it is at a very professional level and not at a
Yeah,
level where it could sometimes you never
box
know
them.
from one grade to the other grade a child might change because
Correct.
they connect to a teacher, they connect to you. So while you understand your cohort, do not stop the
Box
opportunity.
them.
Yes,
Hmm.
for them to learn. So have that flexibility with yourself. uh,
But
while
it's a
you
great way
understand.
to like, sorry, continue.
No, but I'm saying while you understand how they are, you also understand that this is not their limitation. A child has a scope to grow.
Correct. But it's a
Yeah.
great roadmap for teachers as well if we understand what kind of learners are there in a particular class and know that we are giving like equal time to different kind of learners through the class, regardless of how many kids might be there in that particular, say a category or something. It's a great roadmap for us to make sure that we have tried to cater to different learning styles.
May I
Absolutely.
come in here? Because
Yes.
I truly agree with what Richa is saying. Because if we look at the universal design for learning, so
Hmm.
the universal design for learning is, I hope all of us are familiar with the framework, because IBDP is really based on the universal design for learning. And there it is not talking about compartmentalizing the learners. Yes, we need to know our learners, but again, it is very, very important, because it is, the brain does not learn in a unique directional method. So it is not that I am auditory, so I will only listen and learn. I also learn, maybe my inclination of learning is more with auditory means, but it is a holistic, the brain learns, picks up things in all ways and means that it gets. So the universal design for learning, which was, I would say, what Richa said, that when she used these multiple ways, it is, I think, like the multiple means of engagement that universal design for learning is talking about. And that really helps in addressing all the learners, irrespective whether even I'm know the learner or not, because there may be a very new student who has come in, but I am prepared enough with the resources to and given the choices, so that the learner can really make his or her own choice and learn using those means. Just thought I'll
Absolutely.
share this.
Makes sense.
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. I
Thank
I
you.
truly
Yeah.
agree, and I've seen that, inherently, teachers, once they consciously. So what's important is just reflect that, because we all can get into that jargon and understand. And I have seen, especially when the student has given a 10th grade exam over the years, you will see them, in DP, you see a very different child. They might be very underconfident, or they might be still learning, but somehow, the mechanics works as a learner. And I've seen that transition from MYP to DP, and I'm amazed to see year after year when they come and tell me, oh ma'am, we got selected in Brown or Stanford. It's amazing to see how you've seen the whole journey of a learner who might be, in sixth and seventh was the shyest child, has probably given the best interview. So, as teachers, while we believe in our, as educators, that we are making a change in the system and doing for the students, and do it, for our learner, it works wonders. I think it just gives us so much positivity to us and to our learners, that it's just beautiful. So, with that, I am, please, your feedback is valuable for me. So do fill in the Jamboard. Connect to me at any point of time. I'm always happy to help and always ready to collaborate. I highly recommend the book Teach Like a Champion. The book is big, so just in case, you are a bite-sized person, there's a lot of YouTube videos which are available on the strategies, which are very, bite-sized, and you could watch those videos, you could go through those strategies and try to adopt them. when we uh, when we really want to make a change, and we want to champion and have an effective classroom, the key to the success is planning. So you'll have to think a little bit ahead of time, plan and put, okay, maybe I will try this strategy, maybe this works, this may not work, and kind of not giving up. So planning and not giving up in the faith of your learners, in the faith of you being an educator, is all that really makes a difference. And, I wish all of you a very happy new year. And I hope that, you might be able to adopt some of these strategies and make a difference in the learning of your students and have an effective classroom.
Thanks,
Any further
Richa.
questions? Yeah, we have 5 minutes. So anything anybody would like to share? And thank you for all who participated enthusiastically. Anybody else who has not spoken yet and would love to speak up? And if I could have few more, cameras on, so that I could probably take a memory for myself, that will be great. So request you all to please switch on your cameras. I hope you all will be able to have these strategies in your classroom, enjoy them, uh, and have a good new academic year. Yes, Vinny.
One last question. I'm really sorry. Do you have any
No problem.
strategies for ELL students? Because I have two students who are from Korea. So,
Mhm.
any strategies for them?
So you mean that, English is their second language, right?
Exactly, exactly.
Right. So what I would say is that while you are taking them forward, include them. So have all these strategies that are there, include them, but ensure that you are having a little bit of an extra support and scaffolding for them. Also make sure that if you are able to give some kind of an instruction which is scaffolded in between for them. Make sure that what you do is while other class is doing something at par, you have something which is of a lesser complexity for them in the beginning to begin with, and giving them instructions and pair them with students who have a little bit of a nurturing ability, so and are supportive while good in English. So group them with those kind of children, because sometimes students who say, oh, you don't know this or something like that, can be very intimidating. So use grouping strategy, a lot of peer, because they will learn the language from the peers a lot, and at least in the beginning have some differentiated instructions, scaffolded instructions for them. That would really help. I've seen them flare. They have to be, what has really worked with students of from a different nationality, or who come to a different place, or struggle with the language. Children really pick up from children, so pair them well. The strategy that really works is the right grouping for such students. The moment they have the right friends, and they will pick up on the things, and their friends will help them a lot. So be very mindful of their grouping, and be very nurturing and scaffolding in the beginning, and then set the expectations for them. So give them that time, I would say. And I think Priya has something to share.
I would like to add on this. I had few such students from a different nationality. I had actually translated few of the worksheets for the students by highlighting the key words which they could later on use in English. That had actually helped me within the classroom uh, when I had given them such kind of work in mathematics. So the basic idea was making them understand in their mother tongue as well as in English. Both the things were given to the children.
Right. That
Okay.
would be helpful.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Vinny. So we have 1 minute with us, with all of us. Anybody else would like to share anything?
Ma'am, can I share?
Sure,
Hello, my
sure.
name is Chorpon. I
Yes.
also would like to talk about ESL students because I am an ESL teacher. So my challenge was not working with foreign students in my class, but when the foreigners plus students who have problems with language, for example, I had right to education students, also a lot of neurodivergent students. So, and plus within the neurodivergent students, they had variety of them, dyslexia, ASD, ADHD, and there was one child who would disrupt the class. So 45-minute class, he would always disrupt. So whatever you plan, and I would plan like not only plan A and plan B, I would have like 3-4 plans. But because of the disruption, even though I use a lot of classroom management techniques, and initially I would always set the rules and work on classroom dynamics because I really believe in classroom management. But I don't know. Even now, when I reflect on those classes, I still